Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time we're looking at DOVU
Oh, cool.
and their really ambitious goal um, of building a massive data warehouse for ecological credits.
Okay.
And what I think is super interesting is how they've evolved from a project that was really initially focused just on carbon credits
Right.
into something much broader that really encompasses a whole variety of ecological initiatives.
Interesting.
And the source material we're looking at today is DOVU's white paper version 3 from December 2024.
Okay.
Um, and it really lays out their vision for this.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be looking at, their move to a product-driven approach, the role of the DOVU token.
Mm-hmm.
We'll also be looking at their use of Hedera to build trust and transparency
Right.
and really dig into how they see themselves potentially revolutionizing real-world asset tokenization.
It's definitely it's an interesting time for this kind of project. The way we value and incentivize positive environmental impact is changing a lot,
Yeah.
and DOVU seems to be positioning itself at the front of all that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with their vision.
Okay.
The white paper really emphasizes this goal of creating the world's largest data warehouse for ecological credits.
Right.
I'd love to get your initial thoughts on that aim. That's a pretty ambitious goal.
Well, what's really striking to me is this evolution from a token-centric model to a product-driven one. Instead of just focusing on the DOVU token, they're building a whole ecosystem,
Yeah.
like a suite of tools and services that cater to everybody involved in this market.
Right.
And that, to me, is a sign of maturation. It's a recognition that, real-world impact requires more than just a token.
Right.
You need infrastructure.
You need products, right?
Yeah.
That people can actually use.
Exactly.
And they really are, hammering on this practical application of their technology.
Yeah.
So they envision this complete end-to-end process from generating the credits to managing them to retiring. It's not just about creating a marketplace. It's about supporting that whole life cycle of these ecological assets.
Right. And they're also thinking about the challenges faced by people developing these projects.
Yeah.
Imagine you're working on a reforestation project in the middle of nowhere. You're trying to navigate these really complex methodologies and registries.
Yeah. It's a tough world to break into.
It is. And DOVU wants to simplify all that.
Okay.
They even want to use AI to help create professional documentation.
Oh, wow.
It's really about lowering the barrier to entry and empowering a much wider range of actors to participate.
Yeah. I mean, this is where the AI integration gets really interesting.
It does.
It's not just about automating tasks, but you're right. It's about democratizing access to this really complex field.
Yeah.
I think about smaller projects that might not have the resources to navigate traditional systems.
Yeah.
This could be huge for them.
It really could. And it helps address a big problem in the ecological credit market: scaling. Right.
If we really want to see a serious impact, we need to make it way easier for all sorts of projects to generate these credits and sell them.
Mm-hmm.
And DOVU's approach could be a big step toward achieving that.
Okay, so let's talk about the DOVU token itself.
Okay.
So it still has a role to play in their ecosystem, but it's not the be-all and end-all anymore.
Right.
Can you maybe walk us through how they're sort of integrating the token into their products?
Yeah, so they've developed this thing called the Charger Protocol,
Okay.
which basically allows the system to spend DOVU tokens on the user's behalf for different actions within the platform.
Interesting.
So this really streamlines the user experience,
Right.
especially for people who might not be familiar with crypto.
Yeah,
It's a way of integrating the token without making it a barrier to entry.
right. Because it could be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a hurdle for a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure.
And they are clearly thinking about accessibility a lot. The token is available on several platforms.
Right. Hedera, Ethereum, Base.
Yep.
So this multi-chain approach really opens up the DOVU ecosystem to a much wider audience.
Exactly.
Which is crucial for adoption.
Yeah.
Another really interesting aspect is this vision for a decentralized autonomous organization,
Okay.
the DAO. So they want to transition to this community-governed model where DOVU token holders actually have a say in the direction of the project,
That's cool.
which really aligns with, the principles of transparency and decentralization
It does.
that are, really at the heart of the blockchain philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've also got this staking mechanism that they've implemented,
Okay.
which further incentivizes community participation.
Right.
It's about creating this circular economy around the DOVU token and rewarding those that are actively contributing to the ecosystem.
And it's not just, a simple staking system. It's got these multiplier campaigns.
Oh, cool.
Which adds a little bit of gamification, which I think is good.
Yeah, for sure.
Boost engagement. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a good way of aligning those token holders with the long-term success of the project.
Okay, so this sort of brings us to a really crucial aspect of DOVU, which is trust and transparency. And they've chosen to build on the Hedera Hashgraph network, which is known for its speed and its security and its sustainability.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that choice of technology?
I think it's a smart choice. It aligns well with their goals. Hedera offers a really solid platform for managing a huge database of ecological credits.
Yeah, and it's more than just the scalability, right?
It is, yeah.
Hedera's focus on sustainability. They have really low energy consumption.
Yeah.
Compared to other blockchains.
That's true.
So it makes it a very natural fit, right, for a project that's focused on environmental impact.
For sure.
They're really putting their money where their mouth is in terms of the technology that they're choosing.
That reflects their values.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they're leveraging the Hedera Guardian as well, which is this really unique feature that enhances data integrity and traceability on the network. And this is really important when you're talking about ecological credits, where provenance and authenticity are really key.
Absolutely.
It's about creating a system where every credit can be tracked right back to its origin.
Yeah.
Eliminating that risk of fraud or double counting. And that level of transparency is essential for building trust in this market.
For sure. But minting those credits directly on the Hedera Guardian can be a bit complex. So DOVU has come up with DOVU OS, which is basically an infrastructure layer that simplifies the process. So they're taking this really powerful technology and making it more user-friendly.
Right. So it's this modular infrastructure layer that can be adapted for a wide range of real-world asset tokenization projects.
Exactly. And it's not just about ecological credits.
Right.
This hints at, a much bigger vision for DOVU.
Yeah.
They could potentially change the way we manage and trade all sorts of assets.
That's a really exciting prospect. I mean, they're laying the groundwork for a future where you can tokenize everything.
Right.
Real estate, intellectual property.
Yeah.
Create more transparent and efficient markets for all these things. And it really does align with their goal of breaking down these silos in the RWA space.
It does. Right now, a lot of those projects are kind of isolated.
Yeah.
Which makes it tough to connect those different asset classes and create a truly interoperable ecosystem.
Right, yeah.
So DOVU's infrastructure could kind of provide the foundation for a more standardized approach to this whole thing.
Right.
And that could be really valuable.
Okay, so let's dive into their marketplace a little bit.
Okay.
So it's you can find it at app.dovu.market. And this is where buyers can purchase ecological credit NFTs using fiat currency.
Right.
Which I really appreciate.
It makes it so much more accessible to people outside of crypto.
Yeah, that accessibility is really key. It's removing a major barrier for entry. It allows anyone to participate.
Exactly.
Whether you're deep into crypto or you're just starting out.
Yep.
And by offering that option to buy with fiat, you just broaden that pool of buyers so much.
Absolutely.
It's interesting also that buyers can actually take custody of their purchased NFTs.
Right.
Which is a pretty significant departure from some other platforms where the assets are held within the platform itself.
Yeah, that's true.
What are the implications of that choice?
Well, it really gives the buyers control.
Okay.
They're not locked into a specific platform.
Right.
They can do what they want with those assets.
Yeah.
It aligns with this recurring theme we see with DOVU of empowering the user.
Okay, so let's talk about the retirement of these ecological credits.
Okay.
Which is really crucial to ensuring their integrity. And DOVU has developed a solution called the black hole protocol.
Okay.
But, retiring assets on the Hedera network presents these different challenges compared to, say, Ethereum.
Yeah, it does.
Can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, it's a real technical challenge. On Ethereum, you have this concept of burning a token.
Right.
To remove it from circulation permanently. Hedera works differently.
Right.
So DOVU had to come up with a workaround.
Right.
And that's the black hole protocol.
So instead of burning them, you're sending them into this digital black hole.
Exactly.
Effectively removing them from circulation. And this addresses a key concern in the market, right? this double counting.
It does, yeah.
Which is a big problem.
Big problem.
And then they've very cleverly integrated this with SaucerSwap, which is a decentralized exchange on the Hedera network.
Right.
And that means they've managed to retain value within the system even as these credits are retired.
Yep.
Which I think is a really thoughtful solution.
Yeah, it shows their commitment to sustainability.
Yeah.
In every aspect of their project.
Yeah, and it brings us back to this larger vision for real-world asset tokenization. They're initially focusing on these ecological credits, but their infrastructure could potentially be used to tokenize so much more.
It could.
From real estate to, we said intellectual property.
Right.
It's really ambitious.
It's a big goal.
Yeah.
And it asks this fundamental question, what is value in the digital age?
Right.
And DOVU is proposing a system where anything of value in the real world can be represented and traded digitally, securely and transparently.
It's really about bridging this gap between the physical and digital realms.
It is.
Creating this more fluid and efficient way to manage and exchange assets.
For sure.
But let's ground this in real-world impact for a minute.
Okay.
How does all of this translate into tangible benefits for people and communities?
Well, I think DOVU's approach could really change how a lot of projects get funded.
Okay.
Especially projects focused on sustainability. So, for example, imagine a community in a developing country that's working on a clean water initiative.
Okay.
They could potentially tokenize that project,
Yeah.
generate ecological credits that represent that positive impact they're making, and then sell those credits to individuals or companies who are looking to offset their own footprint.
Yeah.
It's a really powerful way to connect those who are doing the work on the ground with those who want to support it.
Yeah.
And by making this process easier, DOVU is empowering communities to take control of their own sustainable development.
It's about, changing the way we think about investment, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of just looking at financial returns, we can start factoring in ecological and social impact as key metrics.
Right.
And DOVU's platform can really facilitate that by making it easier to measure that impact.
Quantify it, track it. It's about creating a system where doing good is not just this, feel-good sentiment. It's something tangible that can be traded.
Right.
But obviously there are challenges.
Oh, of course.
I mean, disrupting these established industries and changing habits, it's never easy.
Right, yeah.
There are going to be hurdles.
Yeah, definitely.
And we need to be realistic about the potential of any one technology.
For sure.
To solve these really complex problems.
Right.
But what I think is really interesting about DOVU's approach is that they are tackling several key challenges in the sustainability space.
They are.
Simultaneously. It's about creating this more transparent,
Yeah.
more efficient, more accessible market for ecological action.
It is. And while the technology is impressive, what really sets them apart for me is their focus on the community and the user experience.
Yeah.
They're not just building a platform for blockchain experts.
Right.
They're building it for everybody who wants to be a part of the solution.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes them so interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, their use of the Hedera Guardian to ensure data integrity. Their, innovative black hole protocol for retiring these assets. And then, this vision for a DAO where token holders have a voice.
Yeah.
These are all signs that they're thinking long term and building for a sustainable future.
They are.
It's also worth pointing out that they are really committed to this issue of interoperability.
Yeah.
In the RWA space. They're not just focused on their own little ecosystem.
Right.
They're thinking about how their technology can integrate with other platforms and initiatives.
Exactly.
To create this more connected and impactful landscape.
It's a big space, and it's changing fast.
Yeah.
And I think it's really exciting to see a project like DOVU pushing the boundaries like they are. They're asking the right questions, and they're building the tools that could actually make a difference.
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely one to watch. It's going to be really interesting to see how this unfolds.
It is, yeah. And it's fascinating how they've designed DOVU OS with this modularity in mind.
Yeah. Which
means it could be used for all sorts of real-world asset tokenization projects.
Right.
Going way beyond just ecological credits. It suggests a much, much broader vision for what they could do.
Yeah.
Potentially changing how we deal with assets in the digital world.
Right. And that is really exciting. I mean, they're laying the groundwork for this future where everything is tokenized.
Right.
Real estate to intellectual property.
Yeah.
And it really aligns with their stated aim of breaking down these silos in the RWA space.
It does, yeah, because right now a lot of these projects are very siloed, and that makes it really hard to connect those different asset classes and create this sort of interoperable ecosystem.
Right.
And so DOVU is coming in and saying, hey, we can be that foundation.
Right.
We can standardize this whole thing.
Yeah.
Which I think could unlock a ton of value.
Okay, so let's talk about the marketplace a little bit more.
Okay.
So, their marketplace is at app.dvu.market. And this is where buyers can purchase these ecological credit NFTs.
Right.
Using fiat currency.
Yeah.
Which, I love that they've made it so accessible.
Yeah, me too. It's great.
It's so important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because not everybody, is comfortable with cryptocurrencies.
Not at all.
What do you see as the real key implications of that choice?
Well, I think the main thing is that it opens this up to a much larger audience.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned crypto investor or if you've never touched it before.
Right.
You can still come in and participate in this market.
Yeah.
And by giving that option to purchase with fiat,
right,
they're increasing that pool of potential buyers dramatically.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also interesting that buyers can take custody of their NFTs as well.
Right, yeah.
Which is, again, this is different to some of the other platforms out there.
It is. It's a big difference.
Where those assets are held within the platform. So what are the implications of that choice?
Well, I think the key thing is that it gives the buyer more control.
Okay.
They're not reliant on the platform to hold their assets.
Right.
They can, they have the flexibility to manage them however they see fit.
Right.
So again, it comes back to this idea of empowering the user.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about the retirement of ecological credits.
Okay.
Which is, again, crucial to the whole system, right?
Absolutely. It's one of the most important aspects.
Yeah, it is. And DOVU has developed this solution called the black hole protocol.
Okay.
But retiring these assets on Hedera presents its own set of challenges.
Right.
Compared to, say, something like Ethereum.
It does, yeah.
So can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So, on Ethereum, you have this very established concept of burning a token.
Right.
To get rid of it, to remove it from circulation permanently. Hedera's a different beast.
Right.
So they had to come up with something new.
Yeah.
And that's what this black hole protocol is.
So instead of burning, we're sending these things into this digital black hole.
Exactly.
To get rid of them.
Yep.
And this really addresses that key concern that we've talked about.
Yeah, it does.
Right. Which is double counting.
Yeah.
Which is, a big problem.
It's a huge
problem in this market.
Yeah, because if you can double count credits,
right,
then the whole system falls apart.
Right.
So it's really important to make sure that doesn't happen.
Right. And they've integrated this very cleverly with Saucer Swap, which is, a decentralized exchange on Hedera, and that allows them to kind of retain the value within the system.
Exactly.
Even as these credits are being retired.
Yeah.
Which I just think is a really, really thoughtful approach.
It is, yeah. It shows that they're thinking about all the different angles.
Yeah.
And that they're not just trying to tick a box.
Right.
They're really trying to create something that's sustainable in the long run.
Yeah. And it speaks to that larger vision, for real world asset tokenization that we keep coming back to.
It does, yeah.
And it's this idea that we can take this technology that they've developed initially for ecological credits, and we can apply it to so many other things.
Right, yeah. I mean, the possibilities are really endless.
Yeah.
You could tokenize real estate, you could tokenize intellectual property,
yeah.
Anything that has value in the real world.
Right.
You could potentially tokenize.
It's really about rethinking how we think about value in this new digital world.
It is, yeah. And I think that's what's so exciting about it.
Yeah, it's a fundamental shift.
It is, yeah. It's not just about, creating a new technology. It's about changing the way we think about value itself. And I think that's where the real potential lies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating because they're bridging this gap
Yeah.
between the physical and digital world.
They are, yeah. It's like they're building a bridge
Yeah.
between these two realms.
Yeah, yeah, and making it so that, we can move assets and value back and forth more fluidly.
Yeah.
But let's ground this in real world impact.
Okay.
How does this translate into real benefits for people?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is that it can help to unlock funding.
Okay.
For all sorts of projects,
Mm-hmm.
especially projects that are focused on making a positive impact.
Okay.
So imagine a community, somewhere in the developing world,
Right.
that's working on a clean water initiative.
Mm-hmm.
They could potentially tokenize that project
Okay.
and generate these credits that represent the good that they're doing.
Right.
And then they could sell those credits to individuals or companies who want to offset their own impact.
Right. Yeah.
So it's this really powerful way to connect the people who are doing the work with the people who want to support that work.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And by making that process easier, DOVU is giving those communities more power.
Right.
To control their own destinies, really.
Yeah. It's about changing how we think about investing as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Instead of just focusing on financial returns, we can start to think about the impact that our investments are having.
Right.
Are they helping to solve social problems? Are they helping to protect the environment?
Yeah. Yeah.
And DOVU's platform makes it much easier to measure that impact and to track it.
Right.
So you can actually see, what your money is doing.
Yeah, it's about creating a system where doing good is not just this sort of nebulous concept.
Right, yeah.
It's something tangible. You can measure it, you can trade it.
They can track it.
But obviously, with all of this, there are challenges.
Of course there are always challenges.
Right. I mean, you're trying to disrupt these very established industries. You're trying to change behavior.
Yeah.
That's never easy.
No, it's not.
And I think, we need to be realistic.
Yeah.
About the potential of any one technology to solve these problems.
Yeah, I agree.
But what I think is really interesting about DOVU's approach is that they're tackling these several key challenges in the sustainability space.
They are, yeah.
All at once. And really it's about creating this more transparent, more efficient, more accessible market for ecological action.
And the technology is cool. Don't get me wrong. The technology is impressive. But what really sets DOVU apart, I think, is that they have this real focus on community.
Yeah.
And on the user experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're not just building this for the crypto people.
Right.
They're building it for everyone.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's what's so exciting about it.
Yeah. I mean, their use of Hedera Guardian to ensure data integrity, the black hole protocol for retiring those assets, and their vision for a DAO where token holders actually have a say.
Right.
Those are all signs that they're really in it for the long haul.
They are. Yeah, they're thinking about the long game.
Yeah.
Which is really important in this space.
It is.
Because, we need solutions that are going to work. Not just for today or tomorrow, but for years to come.
Yeah.
And I think DOVU has the potential to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's also worth noting that they're really committed to tackling that issue of interoperability.
Yeah.
That we've talked about in the RWA space. They're not just focused on their own ecosystem. They want to make sure that their technology can integrate with other platforms and create this much more connected and impactful landscape.
Exactly. And I think that's really important because, no one project can solve all the problems.
Right.
It's going to take a collaborative effort. And DOVU seems to understand that.
Yeah.
Which again makes them really interesting to watch.
Yeah. I mean, it is a rapidly evolving space.
It is.
And they're really pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Yeah.
And it will be fascinating to see where they go from here.
It really is. Yeah. And, as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into DOVU, it's clear they're taking on a really complicated problem with this multifaceted approach. They're not just focused on the technology.
Right.
They're really trying to create this vision for a future where ecological impact and financial value are kind of woven together.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
which is really interesting.
Yeah, it's a really powerful idea, and I think it's it's worth kind of sitting back and thinking about the broader implications of all of this, like how.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I find really fascinating is how DOVU's vision might actually connect traditional finance with ecological impact.
Right.
Could this infrastructure become a bridge that brings in a much wider range of investors?
Right.
And could that actually accelerate positive environmental outcomes? It's something to think about.
It's a huge question, right?
Yeah.
And I think if we can create a system where investing in sustainability is as easy and as rewarding as investing in traditional assets,
right,
that could be a game changer.
It could, yeah, because suddenly you're not just appealing to the people who are already committed.
Right.
You're opening it up to everyone. And I think that's where the real potential lies.
Yeah, yeah. And DOVU's focus on transparency and accessibility, really making this user-friendly, could really be that key step in making that happen.
It could, and it leads to another kind of intriguing thought, which is could DOVU's approach to standardization and interoperability in this whole real-world asset tokenization space, could that reshape the entire landscape?
Yeah.
Could we see a future where the exchange of value, whether it's for a piece of art or a barrel of oil or a ton of carbon that's been sequestered, could that all happen seamlessly and transparently on this global scale?
It's a really compelling vision, right?
It is, yeah. It's a future worth aiming for.
Yeah, it's a future where that value that we place on ecological and social good is actually reflected in the way we transact and the way we invest.
Right.
And DOVU's work, while it's early, it's still early.
Yeah.
It really offers this glimpse of what that future might look like.
It does, and they're challenging us to really rethink the relationship between technology and finance and sustainability.
Yeah.
And there will be challenges, but I'm hopeful that we can build that more sustainable, more equitable future.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into DOVU.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. I mean, they are certainly a project that is pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
They are.
And it will be fascinating to watch as this all unfolds.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll catch you next time.